Welcome to 50/50 Books, the book review podcast where the books are split in two, and figuring out just what is going on is always a toss-up. I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jonathan. This episode we're finishing up The Most Wonderful Crime of the Year by Ali Carter. This is the earliest we've ever recorded, so I'm feeling like I may have some morning voice on this. Taylor, we finished our holiday choose of the year. How are you feeling?
It didn't feel... I saw this in some reviews as well, but it didn't feel like it had to be about Christmas.
I feel like the only thing that made it Christmassy was there was a countdown to Christmas.
Yeah.
And like vague mention of gifts.
I guess that's true too. Yeah, the gifts as clues. But that's like... It was like depressing Christmas, I guess, right?
Yeah. I mean, it makes sense because it's a Christmas curmudgeon main character.
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it did feel more just it's happening in winter. And that's what matters, just because there's like a snowstorm and stuff. So I think the vibe was attempted. I just don't know if it feels Christmas.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. Do you have any other specific vibes, or are we kind of feeling the same?
Not in particular, yeah. I feel like it's a cozy mystery, but it heavily leaned romance in the second half, and historically that has not gone well for us as readers, and I think that'll probably show up in this conversation. I feel almost a little bad nitpicking romance because simply it is not my genre, but these are simply my feelings, so I will be sharing them.
To be fair, I read a lot of reviews for this because I wanted to see what people thought about the mystery, or if I was just like being a hater. But a lot of the reviews are just about the romance. So, and it of course leans back and forth. People thinking it's hot as hell, and then other people saying it's cringe. So we are not alone here.
Yeah. We could probably start talking about some style things with this book since we're kind of getting into it. Last episode, I pointed out how in the audiobook, we get a narrator switch kind of right before the halfway point where there's like an Ethan voice that comes in. I didn't realize at the time because I hadn't read the book in text yet, which I did for almost the entire second half, that there are character titles at the beginning. Like each one is credited to a Maggie or Ethan, which of course explains why there's a voice alternation in the audiobook. But it didn't make sense to me reading the book to have those, because without that, you would not, at least I wouldn't notice a difference. It was third person either way, and I didn't really notice a tone shift between the chapters. I don't know what you think about that.
I feel like it's useful when Maggie and Ethan are separated to have, obviously, those different perspectives, but I don't know if it was intentional, but I felt like the third person limited aspect of this was a little bit loosey-goosey. If only because Maggie seems so sure of herself. Like, she will look at a person and be like, this person's telling the truth, this person's lying.
Right.
And she'll be right, but that's just not believable unless she's, like, in their head. So, like, it's limited, but, like, it isn't really.
Yeah, it is. I noticed this too because there was the thing we mentioned of thinking it's one person doing everything and how there's no good reason to make and keep that assumption without questioning it. And it turns out like the author keeps putting in, and it's got to be like one person doing all of this stuff, right? Like that continues to be a thread that's like alluded to or mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's just because the author wants you to believe it. So it doesn't actually matter that Maggie never deduces a good reason for that. It just matters that Maggie says it enough that you as the reader are just supposed to accept it, which kind of takes away from the limited aspect as well.
Yeah, and those kind of assumptions just keep happening about, like, we'll get into Eleanor's clues, but, like, the fuck-ass stairs. There is no way you should ever believe an old staircase is anything but an old staircase. But she is, like, so sure that somebody fucked with it to try and kill Eleanor that it's like, I guess this is fact. But it's like she has no proof that it's fact, you know?
There's certainly a lack of evidence in this book, though. I mean, I'm in support of the staircase mattering since I theorized about it. But yeah, you're right. Like, there's not anything concrete. Like, I mean, they could have, and this has happened in other cozy mysteries we've read, where they could have given the whole detective monologue and it was just wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But there's not really like a confirmation until they're lucky enough that they read Dobson well enough that he says something and does something about it.
Yeah, which I guess is the plan, but I hate the fuck ass plan. So here we are. But yeah, so it felt weirdly like omniscient because Maggie's just so good at this that it feels unbelievable, I guess. But it's Christmas. We're in a silly, goofy mood. It's whatever.
Yeah. I'll have some other thoughts on believability of characters later too, but another thing I want to talk about before we get there is how some of these scenes felt fast-paced, and I don't mean in like just an action-y, like exciting things are happening way, though I kind of think that's what it was going for at times. Fast-paced showed up in two ways. One was, like quick scenes themselves happening and being like, wait, what just happened? And I think they could have been more successful in giving you that, like, oh, something exciting is happening if they just either explained a little bit better right afterwards what happened. So, like I'm saying, at the beginning of the next chapter, we get a little bit more clarity based on the response. Or if just, like, the fast-paced thing that is happening was explained a little bit better while it was happening, which I know is difficult because you're going for fast-paced. But I think it's important because I would get past these scenes and not really get what had happened for, like, 2 or 3 chapters, if not more. And there was like one scene I wrote down at the end of chapter 45, and I wish I could tell you what else was happening in the scene, but I didn't write that down. But there seemed to be some like a tussle between Ethan and Maggie, and I couldn't tell if they were fighting or just like loving on each other, like there was just like a confusion about what physical thing was happening. And because they had just mentioned Tucson, I also couldn't tell if this was meant to be a flashback to Tucson, which and I for sure know it wasn't. But at the time I was like, did they mention Tucson and now we're going back to them like having a fist fight in Tucson? Like, I don't know. This was just one example scene, but there were a few moments where I felt this way of like, it's going fast and maybe too fast.
Yeah, I can see that. Whenever we did the suspects stuff, like that was really quick. And I think when it came to the introductions, it felt okay. But when it came to actually questioning them, like we wrapped up the questioning in like 2 chapters.
Literally so fast.
So fast.
It was like immediate after the halfway point too. It was like, oh, I wrote a note that was like, certainly we're going to come back to all of these people, which is not what happens.
No, we get all the information we need and then we never have to deal with it again.
That was my favorite part, which I think maybe was the foreshadowing that the rest of the book would be more about the romance.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking on the balance of mystery and romance, another thing that I felt was a little too fast was this back and forth between plot and romance. There would be like a page or two where they're fleshing out the mystery, talking about cameras, talking about whatever Eleanor set up. And then there would just be a page and a half of them like having a romantic feely moment or alternatively just like fleshing out some of their traumas that they've been sharing with each other. And then it would just like go back to the mystery, but then it'd go back to like a different romance scene. There was a lot of this back and forth where I was like, which one are we doing right now? Like I'd want to effectively skip over a romance page so I could figure out what mystery thing was happening. And then maybe if I really wanted to, I could go back and figure out what romance thing I missed. But I didn't like this page back and forth that was happening a bit in kind of the middle section of this half.
There's like a way you can interweave those things, but I felt like we just didn't care about the mystery and didn't care about the stakes of the mystery when we were dealing with the romance. Like them having sex in that cottage, I was livid.
Another moment of reading one of these books and being like, oh, poor Taylor.
I know. Because like Maggie is she's literally concussed in this moment. And it's like, we're having sex now?
Yeah, I know.
Crazy.
I know. Man, that just kind of adds another ick point to Ethan for me.
Oh my god, I hate him so
such a shame, because what did I say at the end of the first half? Like, oh, I don't hate either of these characters. I don't see why Maggie hates Ethan so much. Bro, I think by the end of this book, I hated Ethan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's ridiculous. And with that whole scene in the secret passageway, the whole time was like, where are they? Like, they keep having these conversations and then brief mention of setting. And I'm like, where have they ended up? How long has this been going on? How big is this place? Like, I don't know. I was interested in things in that part that just weren't discussed.
Yeah, like Ethan makes a mention of we should look out for any light, like cracks in the walls, things like that. And I was like, oh, we're going to spy on some shit here.
Right.
But we don't.
Yeah. There's definitely some, it feels like missed opportunities in that section.
Yeah. But do we want to talk about the romance then, as if we haven't already?
I know, yeah. Let's get into it. There's one thing to sort of preface the romance discussion itself, which is Colin and Emily, because we do get a little bit more of them. And speaking of things that pissed me off in this book, and this is less from a like I'm pissed off that this is part of the story, and more just that these people are actually evil, like truly evil, because the whole basement thing, like where she gets locked in the basement and trapped down there for a day and a half. I mean, it's giving to, for me, it's the same thing I felt with the staircase, where I was like, this seems suspicious. Like, I think that they are potentially just criminals. Like, I mean, either they locked her down there and that does make them criminals, or they left her down there and they knew, because she said she was screaming until she didn't have a voice. So I think that's just crazy levels.
Yeah, I could believe it from Colin, but the fact that Emily later calls Maggie and is like, I'm pregnant, let me tell you all about the nursery. I'm like, what is happening here?
It's giving unstable behavior for Emily with that.
Yeah, and but the thing is, we do see glimpses of like Maggie being like, Emily would lose her phone or her jacket, and then she'd have to buy new ones, and then she'd miraculously find them again. And I guess, oh, Maggie, you can have them because I had to buy new ones. And like, there's something genuine about that kind of action.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, like, I don't know. It's just like so unbelievable to think that Colin and Emily don't just see Maggie as a little pet.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the only other argument is that Emily gets caught up in whatever Colin does, right? Like if Colin is a manipulator for her as well.
Yeah, which I could see, but I'm like, why are we trying to redeem Emily and like the last little bit happening here? I don't know.
Yeah, no, it was weird. That's all I have to say about them. Yeah, Colin, Emily, worst.
Yep. Also the worst, I guess, though he's not supposed to be, is kind of Ethan. This happens, I think, with both characters, but I feel like I can formulate the words better for Ethan. But we kind of start this book with Maggie saying Ethan is a stereotype, like leather jacket king, all of that kind of stuff.
Right.
And I think the idea of the novel is we're supposed to reach the end and be like, these are real people with real feelings. And that's fine. I don't know if we accomplish that goal.
Yeah, I didn't feel that, at least. I mean, not that they don't have real feelings, but I didn't feel that they were more genuine. Yeah,
because it's like you can add traumatic events to a character, but that doesn't necessarily give them depth in like a meaningful way. Because I think Ethan still ends up being kind of the stereotype he was at the beginning, which is like a suave ladies' man who
knows about guns.
Yeah, knows about guns, knows how to fight, like is a protector, like
yes, definitely the protector thing.
Yeah, so we get more layers towards the end, but they're still stereotypical layers here.
I think there was opportunity for this to be a more interesting feature of Ethan. We get some mentions of his relationship with his dad and family history and how that connects to job history too. Like I think there's plenty of hints left there. I'm not sure that there's like the reckoning I was hoping for with that, but the opportunity existed.
Yeah, because we get some really interesting moments of his character, like with the dad bit, right? Where he's like, I'm going to call my dad to get a helicopter and I'm going to have to work with him. And that just ends up being a fight with Maggie where he's like, I'm going to protect you. And she's like, no. And, you know, it's whatever. And then when we have the headlight to flashlight scene where he clearly has like a PTSD flashback there, he just kind of brushes it off afterwards and is like, fine, like, okay, I guess we're not dealing with this. So it's like we have these moments of like emotional depth and like something interesting happening with him, and it all just kind of gets brushed off in like a I need to protect Maggie like general sweeping statement that I feel like reduces his character a little bit.
I agree. I think there's also some undermining of what could have felt more like a feminist thread in this book, which I almost feel like is what it was going for. And, you know, don't let me, the local cis man, tell you what is and isn't feminist. But like, I was feeling like it was going for a bit of that. And to have Ethan fall into some of these stereotypes like of protector and like these kind of macho-ness things, I guess on its own wouldn't be a problem. But in a way, I do feel like it took away from what Maggie was going through and her growth story. And particularly the ways in which she kind of like does have to defer to him, that or I'm like, I feel like something's a little off about this thread.
Yeah. I think I remember writing a note when she gets kidnapped to the greenhouse where I'm like, she's damseling a little bit too hard in this situation.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. I didn't even think about that.
Between that and then her also getting taken by Dobson, not just once, but like multiple times.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the book, I'm like, what is happening here? Like, why have we cursed her to fall into this role?
That's a good point. I will say I think Dobson is supposed to be kind of the other direction. Like, he is supposed to be like a macho asshole, whereas like Ethan is like a nice macho guy. And so I think him taking Maggie makes sense for his characterization. And so even though we are in a more modern relationship with Ethan and Maggie, we still have people around who are like Dobson.
Yeah.
The other thing that got me about this Dobson situation was we get a kind of another ick thing for me with Ethan throughout the book, where he is shocked at how strong Maggie is. He's like, "Oh, Maggie, like you must work out, like you must take classes, all this stuff," which comes off as like a little misogynistic in my view personally. And so to establish this consistent line that Maggie is a physically strong woman, stronger than I guess what Ethan is used to, like for her to not be able to physically defend herself and always need Ethan 100% of the time doesn't feel right.
Yeah. I guess the annoying part is the idea she's supposed to trust him, but I feel like we figure that out when he finds her in the greenhouse. Like, that's the big trauma moment, right? Because of the wine cellar. So I feel like we finish that plot line and then we don't need that moment of trust again. Like, they've sorted it out.
Right.
So yeah, this old man with like a sprained ankle, it's like, if Maggie is so strong, then how can she not just kick him in the balls and be done with it?
Exactly. Yeah, or the ankle for that matter, right? Like, he's got a known weak spot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, this happens like throughout the book, Maggie being infantilized.
Mm-hmm.
She literally gets compared to a child multiple times.
Yeah, there's like this thing of Ethan, I guess the characterization attempt is that Ethan kind of knows the language with which to address Maggie, which certainly sounds like babying a lot of the time. And like, it's back to the caretaker thing and protector vibe that Ethan is going for here. They have this thing where basically Maggie throughout the book refers to having panic attacks in the past and having self-doubt, but she maintains a lot of confidence, at least outwardly, for the first half of the book. And only when the romance actually starts does she start having panic attack or like near panic attacks and having major self-doubt, where Ethan has to be like, no, baby, or, sweetheart, like he likes to say, like, I got you, like, you're perfect just the way you are. And then it like fixes Maggie's problems, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like Maggie has to bring herself down to almost a more childlike notch in order for Ethan to get to do that.
Yes. Yeah. I think it just clicked in my brain with everything we're talking about. Yeah, because he needs to be the protector, right? And then she, because of her trust issues, she needs to be protected. Like, That's the roles they've fallen into for their character arcs. Because Ethan feels like he can't protect people because of his accident, because of his rehab, all of that kind of stuff. And Maggie feels like she can't be vulnerable with people because of Colin and Emily, right? So, like, oddly enough, they're falling into very stereotypical gender roles here in regards to their relationship and, like, what they're supposed to give each other.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because in the other direction, as far as them fixing each other, Maggie like holds Ethan's hand and his tremors stop, which, I mean, I don't know if this is just physics or if there's something deeper there really, but it's kind of the physical soothing role that it kind of still fits the stereotype, right? Of like, what is her role here as a woman in a hetero relationship? It's like soothe him, like take care of him physically, so that way he can physically protect you.
Yeah. Ethan even says at the very end he is half of a whole because like she completes him basically, and
Oof.
I just think that's such a bad way to think. And it works for him, I guess, if we want to allow it to work. But yeah, for Maggie's whole character, it doesn't work. Like I feel like by the end of the book, she's not supposed to be half of anything. She's not supposed to be half of Eleanor. She's not supposed to be half of Ethan. Like, she's supposed to come into her own, right? So
100%. This is a finding herself story, or it should be.
Yes, for sure. So it's so weird that I guess we want a soft man, right? Like, we want a soft man that says, I'm nothing without my woman. But it feels like such a disservice to Ethan as a person to have that be his entire role.
Yeah, I think the version of this story that I'd really want, which shocker, is not a romance. It's like a mentorship story. So like maybe it's not this Ethan character, but like someone who does what Ethan does in enabling Maggie to come into her own and understand herself and the things that she's working through, but isn't seeking to be her romantic partner. So that way she does have kind of that independence moment for herself.
Mm-hmm.
And I think of this especially because of what you said about Colin and Maggie in the first episode, which is like Maggie was not in a great mental state because she'd recently lost her parents when she decided that she was in love with Colin. And so them getting together like never really happens with a clear mind, and there was never a moment of clarity. And I'd kind of argue that Maggie still doesn't have a moment of clarity, and this is happening really, really quickly. Like, she's kind of falling into the same trap, in my opinion. Even if Ethan turns out to be a fine guy, like, she is approaching this the same way. And so I'd like to see her step away from a romantic situation in a time of mental strife. And not that she doesn't deserve romance, even if she's going through mental strife, but just to have that moment of reflection.
Right, because let's be clear, Ethan has apparently been in love with her for 5 years. I don't really buy it because they don't know anything about each other.
Yeah.
But Maggie has hated him, right? Like,
yeah.
She either didn't know him or she's hated him and thought he was a jerk. And now it's been like 3 days of them solving this mystery where they almost die. And now she is in love with Ethan. And I'm like, give me a fucking break here. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, if anything, they're just trauma bonded, right?
For sure. For sure. But to your mentor point, that's like a really good idea. I think that's what, if we take Ethan out of the equation, that's basically what Eleanor is doing with this whole plan, in part, is setting Maggie up to be the victor, right? Because she does believe in Maggie for some reason, which is fine, but Eleanor really is kind of that mentor, giving her power back, whatever. Ethan really is just here to be a shield. Or a gun, whichever one he needs to be at the moment. Like, he is not a human, even to Eleanor. Like, Eleanor only has him there to protect Maggie. So it's like, yeah, it's such a waste of his character.
Yeah, which comes back to it all of like, we end up with him being more of a caricature character than he starts, but then for some reason Maggie is like, no, he's a real boy now. Like, he's actually got person to him. It's literally like 2 lines before she says, no, he's like a human, where I'm like, no, he's actually a fantasy.
Yeah. Yeah. He's also the most annoying fantasy that ever has existed. I just thought he was like so unfunny, so not charming.
I think he was just very classic in those ways,
yeah,
which I'm sure works for many people, but it was not of a particular interest for us. I don't know. He does the whole like want to make out thing for the rest of the book, and it is equally frustrating. And I think it's especially frustrating because they do make out at some point, but this does not stop.
Yeah, they keep doing it, and also I feel like it has no relevance. Like, it's not an inside joke. It's not something Ethan just does. It's just like sexual harassment.
Right. No, because yeah, like I said in the first half, I was like, why does Ethan think this is a normal thing to say to another adult human that you don't know?
Yeah. And this just kind of summarizes their entire relationship, because whenever they have an emotionally deep conversation, it's always ended by want to make out or them actually making out. And I get it, like, emotional intimacy can lead into physical intimacy, whatever. But like, part of me is also kind of like, can you guys just like talk like normal humans and take each other seriously? I don't know.
The one that really got me was after they finished the Dobson scene. Like, he gets him in the throat with the dart and knocks him out, whatever. that they start making out as like the helicopters are descending, like action movie style. And I was like, this is the most awkward thing you guys have ever done.
They're literally
like,
outside freezing.
Yeah. There's a man bleeding on the ground. Like...
Yes. It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I guess the summation of all of these thoughts is the romance kind of sucked.
Yeah, I think I struggled to know what romance I would love. And so that's why I still feel like a little bad when we have to critique a romance. Not that I think it's unfair of us to do, but just I really have yet to feel like so moved by a romance. And I maybe have to specify in a book. I wonder, I'd have to think a little bit more about movies. I feel like maybe movies I'm a little bit more open to romance because they take less time. And so I'm willing to take it a little bit more. And I don't know. I still struggle with it with books.
Yeah, I can't think of any other romances we've read. I'm sure they exist.
Yeah, we had to have liked at least one romance. Like, it's gotta have happened.
Yeah. Usually there is something else going on, though. For this, it was, yeah, like you mentioned before, mostly a romance, so perhaps that's the detriment here.
And maybe because I wasn't expecting that, too. Though if I was expecting it, we probably wouldn't have chosen it. But but if I was expecting more of a romance, then maybe I would have cared less about... No, I don't know if that's true. But I certainly did... I wanted this balance between the romance and the mystery, at the least.
Yeah, I get that. And speaking of mystery, should we get into it?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
We've already kind of talked about how this is 2 books in one. I feel like, yeah, romance is mostly what we're dealing with here, so the mystery feels even more fast-paced, if you can believe it.
Yeah, it's interesting because it feels like it's more of the context of the romance than it is like the story, but it does have an attempt at doing a full story, so that's it. Yeah, it does make it fast.
Yeah, the main thing really is that we had debated in the first part if Eleanor's plan was happening or if something had gone wrong. I thought this entire thing was Eleanor's plan. I was wrong, but also them all being there investigating is Eleanor's plan. So, like, we were both kind of figuring it out.
And I do think you were right about it being a test in a sense, right? Because there was a task here, but I don't know. Test almost feels wrong because I guess it was more of an expectation, right? Eleanor is expecting that Maggie's going to figure it out with the support of Ethan and vaguely Sir Jasper, I guess.
Yeah,
but,
poor guy.
But yeah, I guess there is some truth to it being like Eleanor is setting something up for Maggie to complete.
Yes, because Victoria, the Duchess, who actually gets a lot of character development in a strange way, mentions that Eleanor doesn't leave gifts, she leaves clues, because the Duke and Duchess are, like, looking around the house for Eleanor's will, basically. But my question with this is, the idea of clues is fun, but were they actually any good in this book? Like, did they matter? Because we kind of start this with, like, the mistletoe book with something inside it that leads to the maze, which is where Maggie almost gets shot. But, like, the maze doesn't lead to anything, right?
Right. But I think that was just her being wrong. Because the mistletoe book is what let her out there, right?
Yes.
And it turns out that the mistletoe should have brought her to the secret passage.
Yeah, but where is the secret passage?
I don't know. It just seems like it's like in the hallway somewhere.
Yeah, I think it's just in some random place, and there happens to be a mistletoe on the wall. So I'm like, that's not a good clue. That's just like a coincidence, you know? Like,
I mean, yeah, I can agree that it's not a good clue because it's misleading, like in the fact that she did go out to the maze. I think being observant enough, knowing that you're on a little mission, and I think she expects Maggie to know she's on a little mission by this point, I would think she should be observant, right? And like maybe explore the house and understand where things are. But instead she just kind of guns it. And this is like back to the assumptions thing, right? Where she makes an assumption and she's like, that's gotta be it. I think she could have been a little bit more observant and maybe noticed this.
Yeah, they could have found it if they actually searched the house. But yeah, it ends up being a random moment where they happen to find it. It's just like, does clue A lead to clue B?
Right. Certainly not in an earned manner.
Yeah. And there's also nothing, like, to solve. It's kind of just like, I'm showing you a mistletoe, go find a mistletoe. Like, there's nothing...
it's a path.
Yes, yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't think it's, like, deep enough for somebody who's supposed to be as clever as Eleanor is, right? And there's no need to know the books to get there.
Right, which kind of discounts what I said in the first part of Maggie's the only one who could possibly solve this, though. Even though it is designed for her, and she will solve it. She didn't actually need special knowledge.
Yeah, like, because they get to the greenhouse, and it's the second time they're in the greenhouse that leads to, like, them finding the nightshade with the ribbon, which connects to another book. But, like, the context of what the nightshade is in that book isn't really important. It's just the book and, like, the circled numbers and the copyright, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like...
It's direct.
Yeah, it's so direct. At that point, just look through all the books and see what you find, right? So that's, like, kind of nothing as well.
I think this is what makes mysteries tough for me sometimes. Now it's switching genre criticisms, but I want to be able to catch on to something. And I've said this before, like, I want to get to the end of the mystery and be like, oh, the author got me good. I could have figured it out if I was paying more attention or connecting more dots or spending more time thinking about it. And I think overall, this book does not hit that for me. But if we just focus on these Eleanor clues, it's missing that because we too don't know there's a mistletoe hanging out in the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like also don't have anything to give us the thought of like, oh, it'd be nice if they looked around the house. Like, no, we're just told like there's a mistletoe maze connection, and she goes for it. Like, there's nothing to show us, like there's nothing to give us such that we can cheer for Maggie to do something in particular.
Yeah, we just can't know what the books say because they're fictional books. And also, the way Maggie works through this book is she has an idea, and then she goes to do that idea, but we don't get, like, a thought process, right? Like, her reaching the next point is, like, a surprise to us. And I think that plays into kind of the fast-paced element of the book, but it does just kind of mean we're along for the ride rather than solving along with her. Because, yeah, let me just say the solution to this whole puzzle is, like, impossible for us to know.
No, for sure. There's no way. It's, like, far too much is revealed during the reveal of this book for us to have been able to catch it. Yeah, I've complained several times during mysteries about artificially withheld information. I think it's one of my favorite mystery criticisms. This is, like, obviously I don't want to be handed the Eleanor... what do you call it, like, library, right? Like, I don't need all of that, but we're not given excerpts, we're not given anything that would possibly lead us to this ending at all. And so maybe artificially withheld information is too far, but there's certainly withheld information that I think could have been handled differently, or I don't know, this could have been set up a little bit differently such that we don't need that information.
Yeah.
But, like, for it to be hidden in a novel no one's ever read before, it's like, well, okay, like, then just find the novel, read it, and tell us what's up. Like, that's the end of the book. We don't need all this other stuff.
Yeah. And yeah, it seems like the clues that they're being led to find are just proof that that her life was in danger, basically. And it's happened multiple times, apparently, but I guess the shooting happens because of a misunderstanding, whatever. But the stairs are still insane to me. I don't want to think about them. And then let's talk about the greenhouse fire, because I actually have some thoughts.
Okay, yeah.
In regards to this all falling apart. Because, yeah, Eleanor almost gets, like, burned alive and poisoned in her greenhouse. Classic. But she's able to escape.
Can I interject already? Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Is there ever an explanation for why Eleanor has a poisoned greenhouse?
No, she's a mystery writer.
Okay, that's it. She just is, like, into poisons.
Yeah, why not?
Because that so muddies the water of, like, the poison tea thing.
Yeah.
All right. Go on.
I mean, yeah, the poison tea is ridiculous. We don't need to talk about it. There's no way we should know who poisoned that tea in any situation.
It's also crazy that that's only just going into effect.
Yeah.
This is the first time. I don't know. I couldn't. Maybe I don't really understand in the timeline when Dobson switched out this tea. But, like, anyone could have had this tea. Though I guess they make the point of, like, oh, this is Eleanor's tea that only Eleanor drinks, so whatever. Yeah,
it's just coincidental that it happened in this moment. And also Sir Jasper was enough of a dumbass to drink it, I guess. I don't know what the fuck he was thinking.
And they never come back to that. I'm sorry, I know this is a diversion still. But they never come back to that to be like, oh, yeah, Jasper really did just drink someone else's tea.
Yeah, I don't know what he was thinking. Like, it's such a... I don't know. It feels like such a forced way to be like, we need to poison somebody so we know there's poison. And also, we don't want to deal with Sir Jasper.
Yeah, he was introduced to be removed.
Yeah, because he's technically a part of this whole mystery group. Like, he's supposed to be working towards the solution as well. But I'm like, why is he here? Like, Ethan is the muscle. Maggie is the victor. Like, who is Sir Jasper within this equation?
Yeah, because it almost sounds like Eleanor's trying to set up a trio and it just failed.
Yeah.
Right? But yeah, what does Sir Jasper bring to the group though?
Yeah. Who can say? Because he, disappears. He might as well be dead.
Anyway,
the greenhouse, though. When we hear about the greenhouse, we immediately know Eleanor was trapped inside and somebody tried to kill her. How do we know that? I don't know. We're assuming that's what happened. The door is obviously still broken, so it does show that somebody was trapped inside. But the fire went out because of the sprinkler, and I was like, good. Eleanor must have been inside, the sprinkler must have gone off. But wait. How did she get out? And obviously it's the trap door, right?
Right.
But when Ethan goes to open the trap door from the other side, there's a fucking table on top of the trap door. So how did she get out and then put a table on top of it?
I mean, the fire happened in one particular moment. She could have gone back in there afterwards.
But the door was still locked.
Oh, you're right. I think it's a great catch. I have no idea. There's no logical way, right?
There's simply no way.
And it was a table on top of it, yeah.
It was a whole ass table. Ethan couldn't even move it.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. And you know what? I'm willing to forgive because I think I think this book has a secret genre. And I think it's magical realism.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because if she can just say, I'm Eleanor Ashley at the end of the book for leaving a locked room, maybe I'll believe it, you know?
Yeah. I could see it. I mean, she's also sort of deified.
Yes. I don't know. I'm like such a hateful little bitch. Like, any hope I had for this mystery, as soon as I read the greenhouse bit and that whole table situation, I was like, oh, I'm kind of out of it now. Like,
yeah, I think that's fair. I mean, good on you for catching it because I didn't even think about that. And probably most people don't, but that is important.
Yeah. And the simple solution to this is just get rid of the table.
Yeah. Well, because what was the struggle for, right? Like, what did we achieve by adding the struggle with opening the door? Like another moment talking about strength.
I think so. I think that was literally it.
Boo.
Yeah. But I saw that and I was like, oh, okay, I'm not taking this seriously anymore. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we are often taking books much more seriously than I think they're meant to be, so.
Yes. Yeah. It was a Christmas miracle. That table ended up there.
Exactly.
Solution enough.
It was interesting, too, though, because it's a glass greenhouse, so I was like, certainly the trapdoor can't be the only way out. Not that I think someone came in there, scooted a table, and left, but it was just, there's something comical to me about, like, oh, it's like, how did she possibly get out of this glass house?
Yeah, I was like, why are we not just breaking windows here?
Yeah, 100%.
Also slightly strange, we decided to use the same trap twice by trying to burn Maggie and Ethan inside this greenhouse, considering it didn't work the first time.
I think I was going to say this later, but I'll say it now. I think Dobson is just bad at what he's doing.
Yeah.
He attempted murder of a relatively frail old woman several times.
And
then he repeated one of his attempts. Like, he's doing it all wrong.
Yeah.
And yet we had to put together this whole thing to get him caught.
Yeah, it's just sad. It's a little sad. But in the right circumstances, it could be comical, which I think is the rom-com aspect maybe coming in, but I don't really know if it lands.
Yeah.
But speaking of rom-com, because I think all of the side characters are supposed to be like caricatures, should we talk about everybody's crimes, I guess?
Yeah, I suppose.
Because we do find the safe just in the library, under a rug, which I can't believe Victoria didn't find it, considering how obvious it was. But yeah, inside is a safe that has documents basically on everybody and like the crimes they're committing. So like, we have the proof here in this safe. I guess maybe not for Dobson in like a actual way, if we're believing that.
I do think there's supposed to be something of like Dobson's crimes are not sufficiently prosecutable, I guess, just on the documents around, and like this book, right? Which is a work of fiction technically. So
yeah, we'll believe that. But for everybody else, we're right about Rupert trying to gaslight Eleanor.
And he was already actively stealing, right? Because someone said 2.4 million had gone missing. And there was some mention of royalty checks, so he must have been somehow grabbing those and making them his own.
Yeah, and Kitty had no idea, apparently.
Yeah, that did get me because Kitty was very anxious throughout this book, so I was suspicious. I mentioned last time that she just knew whatever Rupert was up to, but she didn't have anything to do with it. She, in fact, didn't have anything to do with it, but she also didn't know. Like, she was just like, Rupert, damn, like, why are you doing all this? And she really is just like an overworked mom, and that is probably the sufficient source of her anxiety.
Yeah, Rupert, piece of garbage. Even Dr. Charles ends up being nicer than he appears, because he's like, yeah, Eleanor, I think she was just paranoid because she was paranoid. I don't think she's, losing her mind at all.
It was so funny when Rupert is like, yeah, she like ran off from the Christmas party. Doesn't that prove like my point? And he's like, actually, I think it proves hers.
Yeah. So that's happening with Rupert. We also figure out that Cece and Baby Baines are working together,
so
dating.
Wild. Speaking of things that you could never guess, right? This is just, it would be impossible. I mean, I had suspicions of Cece because of the staircase sitch, but that is not what was happening with her at all.
Mm-hmm.
And I had some fear about Cece being responsible for something here because she's like the poor American cousin in this rich British family, right? And like, she's like seeking familial connection with her long lost relative. So it's like, no, please don't make Cece the one who's done it. Like, don't make it like the outsider, right? But then it's like, she's not actually related to her at all. So I'm like, all right, fine, I guess. Like, she can be the villain.
Yeah, there's just no way for us to guess in any like circumstance that she's not related to these people.
Right, because it's easy to accept that she's got an American accent and grew up in America, right? And that's how this happened. And it sounds like there's even a legitimate story that she had a brother that ran off to the States, right? Like they did the research clearly. Like, this is a feasible story.
Yeah. I will say I don't understand why Cece and I guess Dobson and who else is it? James makes sense because like James is chill, but like why they weren't listed with it like in the suspect list.
Yeah.
I think from like a style point of view, I think the suspect list was supposed to feed into the next chapter, which was the introduction of the suspects. And so Cece, who had already been introduced, and Dobson, I think, who came later, it makes sense stylistically why they weren't listed. But I think if they were actually being interviewed after the fact, and they were thinking about Cece and they were thinking about Dobson the whole time they were investigating, then they should have been suspects.
Dobson at least, right? Because he is the one that they're going to be talking about, presumably. I could kind of see them leaving out Cece because they know she's not the one who tried killing, right?
Well, but then they list Baines.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. There's no good reason. Right, because they list all these other people who know they don't. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's just a style thing, but I do think it muddies the waters in regards to us trying to figure it out.
Right.
But we've also come to the conclusion that we're not supposed to figure it out. So
yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Especially like stuff like this, we were never given the privilege of understanding ahead of time. So
yeah. The Duke and Duchess, classic money situation as well, but they actually aren't really committing crimes. They're just kind of curious about the will and if they're
just
still
invested
in
forgiveness. Yeah.
Yeah, which is fine.
Yeah, it's still a little like slimy, I think, but it's normal, I suppose. Like it's not a crime, so.
Yeah, like I don't care about the Duke. I think for the Duchess, for Victoria, it makes sense. Like I think I too would be a bit bitter if my aunt was like leaving clues instead of gifts. I think I'd be a little pissy too, like
yeah.
And Victoria being like, I just stopped playing. It's like, yeah, you should, because that's kind of annoying.
Yeah, I agree. It's like making me play games like either give it to me or don't,
Yeah. So I think that makes sense for her, but then at the end of this to kind of I don't really agree with the redemption of Eleanor's idea of clues being gifts. I don't tap into that, but Victoria kind of coming around in a family way I thought was nice.
Yeah, I mean, I think she there's a reason she went to Eleanor beyond her being rich, I suppose, right? Like this was an actual familial connection to her, and she's probably feeling some regret too of like not being closer to her and expressing love, right? Things like that. So I think it makes sense. I also think she's probably invested in the will because of their financial past, but I bet you she's also probably feeling a little bad that Eleanor might not be seen again. She may not see Eleanor again, and she left indebted to her, or that she left while the Duchess was indebted to her.
Yeah, with the IRUs and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, because maybe she actually does want to make that up.
Yeah, and we get an ending where that seems plausible, because when Maggie and Ethan find her, it's with a note from the Duchess being like, let her know I want to play again type of situation. So, yeah, I guess like the most hopeful relationship in this book is between Victoria and Eleanor. I don't know.
Honestly. Well, also I'll point out in the first part of the book, she kind of presents herself as an ally to Ethan and Maggie, but they just don't really take her up on it. Like she's the most leveled with them, and I forget what it is she said specifically, but I do remember her I think she just was like giving the most straight information out of anyone and was like, I'm willing to like give you what you need.
Oh, yeah. She does say something like, I have no reason to lie. Like, if I would have killed her, I would tell you I killed her.
Yeah.
And and the only reason really Maggie finds the safe probably is because of Victoria. Because of the clues. They know to look for clues, right? Around the house.
I see what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we get to the Dobson bit, which we've talked a little bit about.
He's the one who did every single kill attempt.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, but just like the assumption that it was one person is not something that made any sense to me, but here we are.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of ridiculous that the solution for like who fired the gun is Dobson got here earlier than we thought. He stayed in the cottage and then he walked to the house, fired at who he thought was Eleanor, walked back to the cottage, and then came to the house. I'm like, that's so insane. Like, yeah. I don't know. The fact that it is a whiteout out there, I'm like, is this old man really walking around that much?
I know, they make him seem very like able, right?
Especially because he does end up spraining his ankle. And like he does it sooner than when he gets to the house finally. So like he is just walking around in a blizzard with a sprained ankle.
Speaking of him being bad at this thing, like killing her and then immediately showing up at the house like 20 minutes later also feels like bad for him. Like he's probably going to be like, oh, like I wasn't here, so it couldn't have been me. But I don't really think it takes that much of a connecting dot to be like, I mean, you could have gotten here 20 minutes ago, Yeah.
Also because everybody else, I think, has an alibi for the gun.
Yeah, I think so. Though also like their breaking of his alibi was like, well, you just ran over here after you did the fire, like for I guess that's the fire one, but he's like, I ran over here and like put on a shower towel or something like that. Like I don't know, I think there's like he's got very like it's giving the sense of like if he had an alibi, someone could be like, well, you ran though.
Yeah.
One thing this reminded me of was Ethan using the staircase and I guess the original greenhouse fire to absolve himself from the poison. Back on the like it's one killer thing, because she's like, oh, like I saw you in the video, and he's like, no, like I couldn't have done the staircase or the greenhouse because I wasn't here yet, so of course I didn't poison her.
Right. Yeah.
Like these are unconnected right now, right? There's no reason to believe these are connected. You're just making assumptions and you're asking for trust on that. So
yeah, to be fair, the whole blaming Ethan in like the last quarter doesn't make sense because we know from the police excerpts that they are together being interviewed. So like,
yeah, but we need that like back half fight before the book ends.
Yeah, but why can't they just fight about like a normal thing? Like the fight could have been more about like things we've talked about, right? Like Ethan trying to protect Maggie not wanting to be protected. Like that would have been more interesting.
That could have been very interesting, yeah.
Especially because Maggie, something that kind of just falls away. We're kind of talking about the romance again, but it's whatever. something that kind of falls away is Maggie isn't taking this seriously in the beginning of the book, and that's dangerous, right? And Ethan is like, this is serious. Somebody almost died and Eleanor might be dead. We need to be serious about this. Like, that should be more core to this book.
Mm-hmm.
But for the most part, they don't really take any of it seriously.
No, they're making out left and right.
Yeah, and Maggie is being, like, likened to a child excited for Christmas, and, like, they're having fun while they investigate this. And it kind of makes sense for Maggie. Like, Maggie should have been more reckless. She should have been more excited about solving this, because I think she's the same kind of unhinged that Eleanor is.
Right.
And I think that would have made sense for her character. And then Ethan should have been like, no, this is serious. Like, we could die, you could die. And he kind of does that a little bit, but, like, only in the way that we get, like, lines like, I have to protect you, and I'm the one that takes the bullet. Like, those things, right? So you don't take him seriously very much, but there is a way in which we could have had Maggie in more danger, and then they fight about Maggie being reckless, and Maggie doesn't want him to protect her. There's something there. There's something there.
No, I totally agree.
But yeah, we get a fight about trust, I guess. Which I guess is also important, I don't know, for Maggie to be like, I know it's not you, and I trust that it's not you. But the whole camera situation is just so not important to the mystery happening that I'm like, why have the camera at all? You know?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, that's a long complaint. Because I guess it's important to note there are 2 different mysteries happening here, I guess. There is, like, the locked room mystery of, like, how did Eleanor escape her office without leaving? That's a mystery all on its own. We don't get the solution to that. And then there's this Dobson trying to kill her and possibly tried to kill a woman in the past mystery. Like, I feel like those are 2 separate things.
No, true. Yeah, though we just had no idea what the past one really, so.
Yeah, because for the past one, we get, like, a misdirect, I guess, with Eleanor's 100th book being about a woman that fakes her death and runs away because someone is trying to kill her. That's all we know about the 100th book. Maggie and Ethan don't talk about it. We don't get them, like, dissecting the book and seeing if there's a clue in it or anything like that. It's really just that one line, and then we're kind of done with it, right? And then when it comes to Dobson, all we know about him is he came to Eleanor when he was a rookie because a woman went missing and he was trying to solve the case. That's all we know. Yeah. That's all we know.
No, yeah, it's so just to clarify, the woman that he is referring to is his partner.
Yes, of the romantic sort, I believe, yes.
Yeah, who he has physically assaulted. And so he's doing this to cover his own tracks.
Yeah, but there's no way for us to know that.
Yeah. It's interesting too, because even when we get to the point where we get the sort of retelling of this woman showing up to Eleanor, she's not in a good state. And so this phrase, like, a woman that fakes her death, like, doesn't feel like quite aligned to, like, the state that she was in when she showed up. Like, so I was, like, confused what fakes death entailed in this situation. It doesn't get explained, and maybe they didn't want to get into the details of it all given the violent situation. That's not what this book is going for. But I was just like, did she fake her death by just running away? You know, like, I was just confused what that meant. And the only reason I'm, like, focusing on that, despite it potentially being grisly, is, like, we're somehow supposed to believe that this description of Eleanor's book describes this woman's experience. And that means that it's, like, pivotal that she faked her death, but that doesn't seem pivotal to her story.
Yeah, I think the issue is we're being a little bit too loose with the idea of faking your death, because Maggie says that, and it's supposed to be connected to what Eleanor is doing. But, like, to your point, Eleanor also did not fake her own death. She just disappeared. That's a very different thing.
Yeah, it's like a false equivalency. Disappearing and running away is not faking a death.
Yeah, so, yeah, I think it's just being used. I think it's just being used incorrectly, to be honest.
I think that's how I'm feeling about it.
Yeah. Yeah, because that line does get connected to what Eleanor's doing, but then the twist is it's actually what happened to this previous woman. But yeah, neither seemingly faked their death. And also, the theme of this episode is it's impossible for us to know.
Yeah. I do have one more thought about Dobson beyond this. what is it about him and Eleanor being friends? Like, Eleanor knew what happened from pretty much the beginning. Why are they quote friends for all this time? Is she spending all of these years trying to get him caught and that she's just keeping him close? Like, that's crazy amounts of effort and to not be successful until now.
Yeah, I think that is what's happening. I think she's been working this entire time to I guess get proof that it was him, but also, yeah, to your point, why is it taking so long and why is this the solution she came to?
I know. Yeah, I thought that was silly.
Yeah, the only reason Dobson apparently starts trying to kill Eleanor is because Cece shares information about the 100th book, and Dobson, for some odd reason, from a small snippet of a book that's not entirely written, Dobson is able to confirm that Eleanor knows about what he did in the past, which seems a little bit unbelievable to me, considering she's a mystery writer that's written 100 books. Like, I'm surprised Dobson's history hasn't come up before, to be honest, plot-wise. But yeah, I guess the answer to why now is because he made another move.
Right.
And it's easier to get proof of him trying to kill her than it was with the woman she saved in the past.
Yeah, I feel like also he's only going to get in trouble for this, though.
Well, yes.
No.
I would believe that. The closing thought I guess I have about this plan in general, other than the fact that it's strange and not very well put together, is that I feel like I think I made a comment, or we both made comments about, like, if this was all Eleanor's plan and she ended up actually being the villain because she's putting these characters at risk for some selfish gain. She didn't exactly do that. You were right about the 100th book kind of being about not this situation, but a real situation. So
sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
I'll take it.
Yep. And Eleanor doesn't end this book as a villain, but I still think what she did was villainous.
Yeah. I mean, I already agree, but if you want to say why.
Well, just she gathered these random people and threw them in a situation they did not understand, where other people have committed crimes. It's not just Dobson. All of these people have committed crimes. And she had proof for those other people having committed crimes. So I don't know why we had to deal with them, but it just caused a mess. And Maggie almost died multiple times. And it's just like, if my favorite author did that to me so that she could draw out a killer, I don't know if I would ever forgive her.
Yeah, I mean, she used them, right?
Yes.
There was no consent to this.
Right. And I'm still confused, I guess, why Deborah invited us to this party and said, something's happening next year, and you could be a part of it. I guess it's the disappearance of Eleanor Ashley is what she could be a part of. I
think it's that yes, but because I think Eleanor's... So we talked about Succession, right? And in a sense, no, she did not succeed Eleanor Ashley, but also in a sense she did, because now there's the Eleanor Ashley Presents that gets mentioned in the epilogue, and Maggie is like, I don't know, she's like moved up kind of in the publishing company as a result, right? Like, she's writing forwards and whatever, but like she's like connected to Eleanor Ashley as a brand now.
Which we could have a whole conversation about that. Okay, I forgot that happened, to be honest.
Yeah.
We are supposed to reach the end of this book, and Maggie says, I don't want to be Eleanor Ashley, I want to be myself. But like a couple pages before that, she is speaking to the room and, talking about Dobson's plan, and she's like, I feel like Eleanor Ashley. And then Ethan is holding a gun to Dobson and looking at Maggie and being like, she looks like Eleanor Ashley. And then we reach the end of the book, and to your point, she's working with the Eleanor Ashley Presents whatever. And it's like, okay, Maggie says she doesn't want to be Eleanor Ashley, but she kind of did become Eleanor Ashley.
Yeah, it totally undoes what is effectively, I think, the point of Maggie's arc by having her do that. Because, yeah, it's only told to us that she does not want to be Eleanor Ashley in one line, in a book full of lines of her wanting to be Eleanor Ashley, and then the actions that follow it are also her becoming Eleanor Ashley. So yeah, you're on it.
And then to my point before, I guess the reason we're okay with Eleanor Ashley at the end of this book is because Maggie is kind of just as unhinged as Eleanor Ashley. They are too similar.
Yeah, they're speaking the same language.
I don't know how you feel.
Yeah, I didn't feel this particular disdain for Eleanor at the end of the book. Like, I was like, it's whatever. She's barely a character, right? She, like, speaking of images and people who are not real people, like, Eleanor feels like that, which is so funny because that's who Maggie idolizes. But, like, she is that person. We don't know anything about her, so we have no depth to back it up with. So I don't know. For me, I'm like, I don't really care about Eleanor and her poor decision to do this, and I guess if Maggie doesn't care either, then so be it. But I agree with you though. Like, I think this was like poor form.
Yeah, weird end to this book, but we'll take it, I guess. Should we get into reviews then?
Yeah, let's do reviews.
I feel like I've said everything I need to say, so I'll keep this very short. I didn't like actively, even though my commentary may suggest otherwise, I didn't actively like hate myself or hate this book while I was reading it, so I don't think it's a 1. I don't know, a 2 feels a little too high though. You know what I mean?
Kidding.
I guess a 2 equating it's okay is probably where I'm sitting. Maybe a 1.5 because of the greenhouse, and that really pissed me off.
It seemed to really get you.
Yeah.
I think for me, it was a fine book. There are definitely some things that annoyed me about it. I don't think it was horrible to read the first half of the book. I think the second half of the book was a little tough to read. I did find the couple a bit icky. I think I found Ethan especially icky with some of the behaviors and his characterization not making sense to me. So, but like I also didn't feel like while I was reading this book, like, oh no, I'm having a really bad time or anything like that. So it is middling, I suppose, but maybe slightly down. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do a 2.5 for this one.
Mm-hmm.
I was tempted by a 3, but I think there are just the fact that I had kind of like style criticisms and character criticisms and mystery criticisms and romance criticisms. I'm no expert, but that's just too many things for me to give it higher than that. So
yeah, fair. But even though we had such criticisms, there is still a good vibe to be found. So do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go ahead. Speaking on PTSD casual mentions in this book, there was one connection I actually liked, which was the flashlight that Maggie has, which Ethan gave to her, being used to kind of get attention when she's stuck in the greenhouse, and how that flashes Ethan back. Well, I think we first get the flashback from Ethan being like, "This is what happened to me," and the headlights in the snow, and then him being like, "Oh, like I'm just flashing back and seeing headlights in the snow," and then being like, "Oh no, wait, that's like a actual flashlight." Like, I think the seeds were planted a little early for that, which was nice, and then it paid off. And even in this, I think it was like maybe back-to-back chapters that happened in, but even in a little bit of a gap there, like, I don't know, it built the right tension for connecting the flashlights to the headlights that wasn't immediately obvious, but once it happened, you were like, oh, this makes sense. So I thought it was, if we're going to be introducing things like trauma into a book, like having them matter a little bit more than just mention helps. And so I appreciated that it was used for something a little bit more than that, and that there was like a bit of an unexpected connection with the flashlight.
Yeah, I thought the image it presented was really interesting.
Mm-hmm. This is a good parallel.
For me, for my good vibe, I think my good vibe is Victoria. I think she was the most interesting side character we got. Other than maybe James. I quite like James as well.
Mm-hmm.
But like Victoria in particular, I think she's a lot like Eleanor in the way that they can be very cold and like calculating. And obviously that caused them, I'm assuming, to butt heads, but then we kind of move like in a more hopeful direction with their connection and, familial ties and all of that. And I think considering we started this book with Maggie looking at Eleanor and being like, she's so lonely, and to reach the end and it's like she's in the sun and she has her lover and Victoria is like, I want to connect again. Like, I think that's a very hopeful ending for the image of Eleanor Ashley we get at the beginning. So I guess this is more a good vibe about Eleanor Ashley, surprisingly.
Surprise, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm a sucker for family, and I kind of liked what they did with it a little bit in this. Like, it wasn't a complete, we all hate Eleanor Ashley because she's a terrible person. It was kind of like we can get somewhere with this.
Yeah, I thought it was kind of a pleasant surprise to have Victoria have sort of the softer moments she did.
Yeah. So that's the most wonderful crime of the year, I guess. We did it.
What do we have coming up next, Taylor?
We are reading something way heavier than what we've just finished.
It's like also twice as long, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. And how familiar are you with Dante's Inferno?
I mean, I've never read Dante's Inferno. I certainly have studied Dante's Inferno in elements of other things, like in literature classes. And I don't know, did you take art and the artist in high school?
Yes.
Yeah, I was like, were we in that class together? I don't know. That class, we definitely did like a unit on Dante's Inferno. So like it's come up a lot for me in studies, but I've just never read it myself.
Yeah, I feel like most people understand the concept of Dante's Inferno with like the circles of hell.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's kind of, it's biblical fanfic that we're reading here.
Mm-hmm.
But it is kind of how we've come to accept hell, oddly enough.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't know that that's like from a work of, well, there's arguments to be made about what's a work of fiction, but that's like an active work of fiction that idea came from.
Yeah. Because we're reading next time Catabasis by R.F. Kuang. And she is a bit of an academic, so I'm assuming this is going to be a little bit heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we both understand. I'm a little bit nervous.
I know.
Yeah, the only thing I've read by her is Yellowface, which is like a contemporary work, so I've never done any of her fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I think to someone like me who likes fantasy, but when I have to read, like, dare I say, a real fantasy, it can be a little difficult because they are almost academic, right? Like in explaining, like, this is the name of this species and this is what's cool about it. And like, you know, it gets into a lot of stuff like that. I don't know if that's what these books do, but I just know that there's sometimes people think they like fantasy, and I think they might not really like it when they get into ones like that, you know?
Yeah, and I think for this, we're also tapping into like the dark academia aesthetic genre. Who knows what it is at this point, but I feel like dark academia also has a lot going on. And then, yeah, we're mixing in the whole Dante's Inferno, traveling to hell.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot for us to talk about.
Yes.
But Catabasis. For Catabasis, we are reading up to, but not including, chapter 18.
These have to be some big chapters.
You're in trouble.
I am in trouble. Famously do not like a long chapter, or at least I prefer a short one. I also doubt I'm going to be able to audiobook this one. Like, I think with long stretches, I'm going to need to be able to like see it in front of me.
Yeah. So if you have any thoughts, theories about, I mean, there's no theories left for the most wonderful crime of the year, but if you have them, please do present them. And if you have anything about Catabasis, about the book or the author, I'll take anything. All of our socials are in the description. And thanks for listening.
Bye.